Yeah. You going to send your kids to private school?
It depends on when I have kids that need to go to school, who knows how many years that is from now. But dude, the educational system is a fucking problem.
Yeah, because the private school might be even worse than the public school at that point. Like who knows which one's going to indoctrinate them more, you know?
You know what book I read on this that it's just becoming more and more relevant as time passes? Douglas Murray, War on the West. You know Douglas Murray?
No.
You know Douglas Murray? I thought he'd be your fucking hero. I thought that'd be Austin's.
Well, if it was like shortened up into like a bunch
of War on the West, though. I've heard of that book. Yeah.
Dude, it basically explains everything going on right now. So it pretty much all starts in the universities, and it all comes from Marxism. All of these race-obsessed, victim mentality, anti-capitalist professors, their god is Karl Marx, who wrote the Communist Manifesto, the most anti-capitalist tome in existence. But not only him do they worship. There are, what's the philosopher, like Sartre? Like I can't really pronounce his name, but he was a guy who theorized that colonialism is evil, and the only way we can repent for our colonial sins is for the colonialized to colonize us. So like Africa, the Middle East, South America, them all come to us and destroy our nation. This guy, Sartre, was like rooting for that. So basically, in the universities, they're all just anti-capitalists. They're anti-white. They hate white people for the original sin of slavery and colonialism and being complicit in capitalism. And therefore, they're for anything other than that. That's why there's been such a rallying to Palestine right now, because it's a battle between a Western power and something other than that. And the university and the students are going to side with the non-Western power. And at first, that's going to be a minority. Like at first, after the Israeli attacks, pretty much people universally supported Israel. You were ostracized if you didn't. Biden was big on Israel. But then slowly, as the protests started happening, more and more people in academia started speaking up. More and more people in politics who just graduated college started speaking up. It reverberates out from the universities, and then it infects other people, and then they start agreeing with whatever's going on campus. So I'm trying to think of, we're going back to the War of the West here.
Well, cultural Marxism.
Cultural Marxism. And it's insane that they will find reason to knock over the statues of any of our founders, like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Abe Lincoln. But one chapter that really stuck with me in that book is he goes through all of their cultural heroes, like Marx himself, like these various other philosophers, and many of them were pedophiles. Karl Marx was a fucking vile racist, and nobody talks about that. Ibram X. Kendi and all these guys, BLM, they all love Marxism, but they will not admit that Marx was a horrible racist. And then, like, Thomas Jefferson, I mean, he fucked slaves. He liked black women.
And he freed his own slaves.
There
He
you
only
go.
freed two of his sons that were he had I think 5 or 6 slave sons, and he only freed 2 of them.
Jefferson?
Yeah.
I mean, I was making a joke, but it's ridiculous. I mean, if we're gonna pretend that people's private lives and beliefs matter more than their accomplishments, at least do it evenly, and they don't do that.
What I don't understand is, are they pretending that communism has ever worked?
Well, basically what it is that the middle class in America was too strong. So arguments between the poor and the bourgeois didn't really work that well in America, but they figured out that what actually gets us riled up is racial issues and racial division. So instead of saying that because critical theory is that everything in the world is a power imbalance between those with wealth and power and those without it. So then critical race theory is the same thing, except for everything in the world is a power balance dynamic between white people and non-whites. Instead of the bourgeois and the rich, it's colors basically. And then eventually they use that to get you thinking with that same kind of Marxist mindset. And then you adopt financial economic Marxism ideals later on after you get riled up through race.
Yeah, and I don't think they really believe that any of this is a good idea. I think they probably know that these aren't good ways to solve any problems. But it's just like, hey, I'm feeling kind of sad. I'm going to take a shot of vodka because it makes me feel better. Calling a white bitch a Karen and saying tax the rich or probably eat the rich or fucking throwing a brick through a cop car just makes me feel better. That's more of their mindset. I feel like most of these people aren't really willing to debate anybody or have a productive exchange of ideas. Most of them.
They're just really mad.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy that it's taught in universities now increasingly as if these theories are just fucking true. Like when I was dating Mia and she was at UCSB, she told me that they had to watch mandatory. They could not click out of it. They had to watch a presentation that used animation to describe racism. And it was two snails. And one had a white shell and one had a black shell. And the black-shelled snail couldn't escape his shell. And he was never going to be able to make as much money or do as well in society because of his shell. They're being taught that like it's fact, dude.
And it goes all the way down to like kids in elementary school being told like, oh, well, you're black, Jimmy, so you're not going to accomplish anything in your life, so you might as well not try. And it's like the worst fucking thing you can tell a kid ever.
But eventually, though, doesn't that fail? Because like affirmative action is removed from colleges again. So UCLA is going to go back to being like 75% Asian.
No, they're going to find backdoor ways of still segregating or still doing very racially conscious
I might have gotten
admissions.
in because of affirmative action to UCLA. I'm
Good
not
for
going
you.
to lie, dude. But I mean, I'm Latino. But
Let's do it through the essays now.
Through the essays, maybe.
You'll write an essay, and then every other line, just write wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm non-binary. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm Latino. And if you, like that's how you'll communicate that you are a person of color.
If you're black, if you're a black man, what if you start off with just an M-bomb, or just like, hey, can you help an enter out?
I'm sure they let him in. I would.
That'd be pretty classic, dude.
There was a guy that I went to UCLA with. We had a couple black guys in my fraternity. It was UCLA was very white, but we had a couple black guys in my fraternity who were classic. One was named Daryl, and this was a different time back then. You could just like fucking shit you could post online was crazy. Daryl couldn't get the class he wanted for the spring semester, and so he went. I guess he had a breakdown in the admissions building, and then he went back to Facebook and posted about it. And I guess he just said basically in his Facebook post that he acted as black as possible. It was a long explanation. And then the last line was, sometimes you got to act like an N-er to get anything done. And it was just the best post ever.
Hey, that is so accurate, though. That is so accurate.
It was hilarious that like he knew when to turn it on. He's like, when to get thugged to scare an admissions person into giving me what I want.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I gamed the system to get into UCLA 100%. I was my SAT scores were not bad, but I had a perfect score on like the SAT score for like the Spanish test, the SAT 2s. I had like a perfect score because it was my first language. But then I was just like, I'm a Latino guy, but so I had a high test scores because I cheated sort of, but just it was my own language.
Can you do a Latino face right now? Pretend you're walking through the admissions building.
A Latino face?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do a Latino
like just
face,
be as
bro.
Latino as possible to try to get admitted right now.
I'm thinking Fez right now. Like, hey, how are you?
Speak a little bit.
I'm more indigenous. Like, hey, hi, how are you? I'm Leo. I'm from Mexico. No,
See, I told everybody you were Mexican.
So I gamed the system to get in there. But like for example, why do you think a school like UCLA, like somebody made that decision to take affirmative action out? Because I mean, they probably getting all these. Their school's just not going to be as valuable anymore.
Well, it was the Supreme Court. It's just unconstitutional to
It was the Supreme Court.
It was the Supreme
against
Court.
people on race. Like it's just it's
Yeah.
already against the law to do that.
Yes.
But it was around for a long time.
Because that's what people do though is that people in power like governors and stuff, they know that they can do things unconstitutional like COVID because it's going to take 3 or 4 years before it catches up to the Supreme Court and it gets stopped. So like you can basically do whatever you want for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I figured that it was just a generation of that affirmative action just failing, and they're seeing that like maybe the percentage of students coming into UCLA that graduate, you know what I mean? Because you know how many people get in and never. I mean, I was one of them. I went in and then I never graduated from UCLA.
Really, the Supreme Court just like are just on top of it, and like if you have what happened with President Trump is the president's probably most powerful ability besides like military stuff is to appoint court people to the Supreme Court. And then now we just have a Republican majority in the Supreme Court. So they're just making decisions that align more with conservative stuff. It's why abortion got overturned, Roe v. Wade. It's the same thing. It's just we have more conservative judges now.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. It's been so long since that happened, the affirmative action one, and that's seemed like a minor footnote compared to abortion, just based on the uproar it caused.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Those good times, though. UCLA. I'm trying to think what else I had to discuss.
Well, I'll tell you about my weekend. Last 36 hours, I've spent barfing because I had food poisoning. Have you ever had? You know what it reminded me of though? Those days after Del Taco and In-N-Out, and how effective.
Yeah, food poisoning, more like binge guilt.
Yeah,
Stop it.
so.
I was not binging and throwing up. I'm telling you the truth. I had food poisoning, but I can tell you that it is quite effective in dropping some LBs. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie.
What'd you eat, fat ass?
What got me sick?
Yeah.
I think it was an overnight oats from 7-Eleven. I got late night. I was taking a little walk.
Overnight oats?
Overnight oats.
What are
you
those?
know? It's like where they're like, it's oatmeal that you let soak overnight and then it becomes
The cup.
Yeah, the cup. Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
So I got one of those.
It's Starbucks. You can go for those, maybe.
Exactly, yeah. So I had one of those at 7-Eleven late night and thought it was a healthy choice. But then I woke up in the middle of the night and I started throwing up. And for me, normally if I throw up one time, you know what I mean, it's over. But it was like not over. So yeah, then I had a fever too. So I was just like out for 36 hours, like in a delirious state.
Damn.
It's pretty nice.
It's a good thing we
When's the
filmed
last
with
time you
Rat
had
Dick
one
on
of those,
Thursday.
dude?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a fat ass who eats whatever. I don't believe you had overnight otes. He probably
That
had
was
a
it. I did
Slurpee,
not.
a corn dog, a piece of pizza that had been sitting under the heat lamp for 3 days.
Oh, you know what? I've done that. You know what I mean? I've done that. The hot dogs at 7-Eleven are phenomenal. I don't know. People talk shit about them. Like people go in and like, who eats these? Well, I can eat one of those every now and then. But no, yeah, I was spending my days, and then you know what? I really thought of like the 24 hours into the sickness. I was just thinking like, wow, man. Like health is wealth, man. Without if you don't have your health, you really have nothing. Like striving to be rich, striving to get pussy, all that is nothing. It's nothing if you can't fucking walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brando was just pissed, dude. I couldn't play with him, dude. He just come in, he climbed on the bed a couple times, came on my head, like he came.
He came on your head?
He didn't come on my head. Yeah, you wish, dude. He fucking jerked off on my head. Yeah, poor little Brando, dude. I could just barely get up and put some tuna on his plate and fucking go back to bed, dude. It's pretty fucked up, man.
That's rough, man. Yeah, I ate a piece of chocolate from Whole Foods today. Organic, but I still feel like a piece of shit.
Dark chocolate, dude?
It was milk.
You like
it was
you're a
milk.
milk chocolate guy. Huh?
I don't like dark chocolate.
A dark chocolate is an aphrodisiac, so you should get used to it. I mean, you should get into it.
I don't like that. He made eye contact with me when he told
Oh,
me.
relax.
Dark chocolate was an aphrodisiac.
You know what I've figured out about Danny? If you are an above average looking man, he is significantly less gay with you. The uglier you are as a male, the more gay Danny is.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
Isn't that fair?
Why? That would be it arguably means you're more gay. Because why would you be worried?
It's
about
like the uglier a chick
interaction?
is, the more aggressive you can be about sexually harassing her because you know she likes it.
I was just checking if Sandrine hit us up. You're right. I mean, look, I do believe that. Yeah, they're like on the baseball team. If you wanted to like get a guy naked, it was like the fat tubby guy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean, you never wanted to get like the fucking huge black stud.
Yeah,
Fucking
no,
naked.
It's
Yeah,
uncomfortable,
it's-
dude. It's really when a guy's uncomfortable. Gay jokes around a guy being a 7 is when they start falling off. You can't make gay jokes for a 7, dude. You can't. Gay jokes are the domain of 5s and down.
5s and down.
Yeah, like Fez, dude. Like how many
Fez
times?
is pretty good for
like,
a gay joke.
Yeah, like Fez is like I could threaten to fuck his rolls, his mouth, his ears, any hole basically, and it's okay. It's all good. It's Fez.